Judges 11. The rise of Jephthah. Now Jephthah the Gileadite was a mighty warrior. Gilead was his father. He was a prostitute's son. Gilead's wife gave birth to other sons for him. And when his wife's sons grew up, they drove Jephthah away. They told him they want get an inheritance in our father's household because you're different woman's son. Jephthah ran away from his brothers and lived in the land of Tob. Worthless men gathered around Jephthah and became his posse. Sometime afterwards, the Ammonites made war against Israel. And when the Ammonites attacked Israel, Gilead's elders went to bring Jephthah back from the land of Tob. They said to him, "Come be our commander so that we can fight against the Ammonites." But Jephthah replied to Gilead's elders, "Aren't you the ones who hated me and drove me away from my father's household? Why are you coming to get me now when you're in trouble?" Gilead answered Jephthah, "That may be, but now we're turning back to you. So come with us and fight the Ammonites. Then you'll become the leader over us and everyone who lived in Gilead." And Jephthah said to Gilead's elders, "If you bring me back to fight the Ammonites, and the Lord gives them over to me, I alone will be your leader." Gilead's elders replied to him, "The Lord is our witness. We will surely do what you said." So Jephthah went with Gilead's elders, and the people made him leader and commander over them. At Mizpah, before the Lord, Jephthah repeated everything. He said, "Then Jephthah sent messengers to the Ammonite king, saying, 'What is the problem between us that you have come against me to make war in my land?' The Ammonite king responded to Jephthah's messengers, 'When Israelites were coming up from Egypt, they seized my land from the Aran, from the Arnon to the Jabbok, and all the way to the Jordan. Now give it back peacefully.' Then Jephthah sent messengers to the Ammonite king and said to him, Jephthah states Israel didn't seize the land of the Moabites or the land of the Ammonites when they were coming up from Egypt. The Israelites went through the desert to the Red Sea and came up from Kadesh. Then the Israelites sent messengers to the king of Edom, saying, Please allow us to pass through your land. And the Edomite king refused. They sent the same request to the king of Moab, and he was unwilling. So the Israelites stayed at Kadesh. Later, they journeyed into the desert, but went around the lands of Edom and Moab. Arriving on the east side of the land of Moab, and setting up camp on the other side of the Ammon. They never entered Moabite territory because the Ammon was the boundary of Moab. The Israelites sent messengers to the Sihon king of the Ammonites and the king of Heshbon, and said to him, Please allow us to go through your land to our place. Yet Sihon didn't trust the Israelites to pass through his territory. He assembled an entire army, set up camp at Jahaz, and went to war with the Israelites. The Lord, Israel's God, handed over Sihon and his entire army to the Israelites, and they defeated Sihon. The Israelites took possession of the land of the Ammonites who were living in the area. They took possession of all the Ammonite territory from the Armad to the Jabbok, and from the desert to the Jordan. So now that the Lord is Israel's God, he has driven out the Ammonites before his people. Israel, will you take possession of their land? Shouldn't you possess the Kadesh your God has given you to possess? And shouldn't we possess everything that the Lord our God has given us to possess? Do you now have a better case than Moab's king Balak, Zippor's son? Did he make an accusation against Israel, or go to war with them?
I'm gonna go on and take their food now so it doesn't get cold. I'll do the order later.
Okay. Why didn't you take their territory back? Israel lived in Heshbon and its villages, in Arhar and its villages, and all the towns along the branches of the Arnon for 300 years. I haven't sinned against you, but you're doing me wrong by making war against me. Let the Lord, who is the judge, decide today between the Israelites and the Ammonites. But the Ammonite king refused to listen to the message that Jephthah sent to him. Then the Lord's Spirit came to Jephthah, and he passed through Gilead and Manasseh, then through Mizpah in Gilead, and from there crossed over the Ammonites. Jephthah made a solemn promise to the Lord. If you will decidedly hand over the Ammonites to me, then whatever comes out of doors to my house to meet me when I return victorious from Ammonites will be given over to the Lord. I will sacrifice it in an entirely burnt offering. Jephthah crossed over to fight the Ammonites, and the Lord handed them over to him. It was exceptionally great defeat. He defeated 20 towns from Orah to the area of Minnith and on as far as Abel Carmel. So the Ammonites were brought down before the Israelites. But when Jephthah came to his house in Mizpah, it was his daughter who came out to meet him with Tambonianites and dancing. She was an only child. He had no other son or daughter. Except her. When he saw her, he tore his clothes off and said, "Oh no, my daughter, you have brought me to my knees. You are my agony, for I have opened my mouth to the Lord and can't take it back." But she replied to him, "My father, you've opened your mouth to the Lord, so you should do to me what you promised after all. The Lord carried out just punishment for you on your enemies, the Ammonites." Then she said to her father, "Let this one thing be done to me. Hold off for 2 months and let me and my friends wander in the hills in sadness, crying over the fact that I never had children. Go, he responded, and he sent her away for 2 months. She and her friends walked on the hills and cried because she never had children. When the 2 months had passed, she returned to her father, and he did what he had promised. She had not known a man intimately, but she gave rise to a transition in Israel, where 4 days every year, Israelite daughters would go away to recount their story of Gileadite Jephthah's daughter. Thank you for listening to this chapter, and God bless.